Once again, let's take a look at amazing people and destinations through the eyes of an artist. We call him the Barefoot Artist, Hyatt Moore.
We're here today at the Masai Mara. It's a beautiful place, and there's animals all throughout it. We don't know what we're going to see. There's no guarantees. Maybe elephants, probably elephants, maybe lions, that'd be great. Crocodiles, who knows? Whatever we see, we'll see people. We'll see the Maasai, and they are beautiful. Landscape of all these trees that are just trimmed at a certain height, all giraffe height, so that there's a uniformity throughout the park. Zebras ahead. Just seeing the pattern of all these, when they go together, it's enough to see one zebra. But when you see them all together, then you have stripe upon stripe upon stripes, and this is part of the patterns of nature. There's just these patterns everywhere. And zebras is kind of the most obvious, I think. What a beautiful pattern that makes. Oh, look at the colors. Designs in the landscape, moving designs. It's kind of moving rhythms. Whoa! We have elephants here. Look at the movement. It's almost, there's such a grace. Even though it's such a heavy beast, you'd think it would be awkward. I paint faces. I'd like to paint the face of an elephant. The great nobility they have and the great incredible wrinkles, like an old man that has all the wisdom in the world. As I walked through a Maasai village, I kept seeing these pictures I wanted to paint, but we couldn't stop and do it right then. We were relating. But later, I found one and I asked, could I paint her? She'd never sat for an artist before. And so I had to kind of coach her. And all this was by hand signals, because there was no common language. Though her name was Mary, which I thought was an interesting Western name. The more you look, the more you see. And the radiance of the dimensions of the skin, not to mention the decor, which I just kind of threw in. Because if I start putting too much detail in that, I get all carried away with that and miss the face. Because the face I was after is a beautiful thing. My painting did not do her justice. I only had 2 hours. The light was fading and she was losing patience. But I took some photos. And when I get home, I want to do her again. Layer upon layer upon layer of color. And she comes off looking just majestic, really. A majestic Maasai, we might call her. I call her Mary, because that's what she called herself. They're really unpretentious people. Look at the humility on her face, really unpretentious altogether. And yet spends, I don't know how many hours putting this together, and wears it every day. All the people that I saw had this kind of garb on, and even though they were sitting around, just living their lives, taking care of their children, working on their houses, walking along the road, but doing it in this kind of clothing. And it just makes one feel quite plain next to them. because they're so special. I didn't know where I was exactly, having not seen a map. Arriving by flights and boat seemed very fringe, an island off a large lake coast of a distant country off the center of Africa. Venturing around yet another bend, not by road, for there are none, stepping ashore from a wood-slatted launch, reading colors, designs, and humanity. Beached boats and nets and racks for drying, mud huts, tin roofs, narrow paths for streets. Young men and old standing about, all but the oldest having worked all night. Some still at it, mending nets. Women working, talking, minding dinner, drying corn, a few offering greens to sell. Some, it seemed, it was their body they'd sell, which is a problem, for with it their soul, and a sickness that scourges these parts. But among all these men and these women were children by the flock. Babies, infants, toddlers, teenagers, a young and hopeful bunch. And though I hardly knew where I was, I knew they know where they are. They haven't ventured very far elsewhere yet, but they didn't need to know. They were in the center of their world, and for the moment, so was I. While I was standing around, three little girls came up to me, and one of them had her own sketchbook, and she showed me her drawings. Look at this. Evelyn is an artist. You practice and practice and practice. You draw like this, just like that. Yeah, you're very good. And they said, draw us. So we sat down, and one at a time, I drew each one of them. I drew Everline, the artist, and another one, Everline with beads, a different Everline, and then Letty. Now by this time we also had 20 kids standing around watching, crowding in. And you can see each one of these three portraits, which each took, say, 5 minutes, they're looking down because they couldn't resist watching the process. It was really a fun moment.